Tonight, we're breaking down all the things that make the perfect horror movie. Then we're talking about The Boys. Is it a brilliantly clever satire commenting on our society? Or over the top, on the nose, and just plain ridiculous? And finally, we'll be inviting on two guests later to discuss parasocial relationships. When does fan adoration go too far? This is Did Y'all See That? Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Did Y'all See That? I am your host, Ngozi Mai, the Jungu VTuber. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 4. Oh my goodness, we have a lot to get through tonight, but first, the rundown. The show is split into two one-hour segments. Pop Your Culture, where we discuss various pop culture from the past month, and Talk Gozy to Me, where we invite a special guest onto the show, in this case, two guests, and for a short interview as well as a hot button discussion item. Feel free to comment away throughout the show. I cannot promise that I'll be reading chat too closely, but I will try. There will be spoilers later in the show during the boys segment of the show in Pop Your Culture. So if you see this image on the screen, that image. If you see that image on the screen, then assume that we are probably talking about something you may be spoiled for. So I recommend that you type in the chat, ask us what we're talking about just to see if you might be spoiled, but default to muting the stream when this image goes away. Then you are safe to unmute. At the end of the show, I will try to go over some questions that you can all submit. In order to submit those questions, type in exclamation point Q&A for the link, and feel free to submit. With that all out of the way, let's get started with Pop Your Culture.
All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit. All you bubs pop your culture like this. Tell me about it, goes you work that shit.
Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and get started with Pop Your Culture with our first segment of the night, in case you missed it. In this segment, I will go over the spark notes of notable pop culture news from the past month, so let's get started. Intergalactic was announced this month. It is Kid Cudi's ambitious adult animated series in the art style similar to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is really cool to see. It seems like that's kind of like a revolution. I feel like a lot of different mediums are trying to go that direction. It's a really, really cool direction to go in. The show is based on his upcoming album of the same name, and it's about a quirky artist named Jabari learning how to welcome love into his life. This cast is packed with star power. You got Ty Dolla $ign, Timothée Chalamet, you got Vanessa Hudgens, Jaden Smith, Tiana Taylor. It's a huge cast. Very excited for this project. Black Adam's trailer came out this month, and it's looking like The Rock's take on the character is going to be an R-rated affair. Looking very gritty, but not melodramatic like Morbius was, thankfully. So we also saw some new DCEU heroes getting introduced, like Red Tornado, Atom Smasher, Hawkman. Very exciting to see this going. I'm of the camp that DC has potential. I still believe that the stories in DC are much more exciting. I don't know. DC has always had a place in my heart, and I have a lot of faith in them. So I really feel like this could be a really good direction for the DCEU as a whole. The Last of Us, the new HBO show, The Last of Us, which is adapted from arguably the best story-driven game I've ever made. You know, I don't know. That's the hill I'm going to die on. The Last of Us is a really good game. It just finished filming its first season, and it's starring Pedro Pascal as Joel, who is known from Game of Thrones and The Mandalorian, and it's also starring Bella Ramsey as Ellie, which, if you recall, Bella Ramsey played the badass Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. The game had a lot in terms of story, so it's going to be really interesting to see if they try to stuff the entire plot of the game into one season, or if they're going to split it up into multiple seasons. Either way, it's got a lot of fucking money. I think something like it's $2 million budget per episode. The budget's huge, so I can only imagine that this is going to be really fucking good. Not to mention Pedro Pascal's in it, so I mean, of course. So this show is premiering in 2023. Very exciting. Cyberpunk is back in the mainstream as it's announced a new 10-episode animated series called Cyberpunk Edge Runners, releasing this November. It's about a street kid trying to survive in the world of cyberpunk by becoming an edge runner, which is a faction of merc outlaws. With the wild success of Arcane, it's seeming like this is a pretty good trade to go into when it comes to games getting turned into animated series. So I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic for it. I didn't really love Cyberpunk personally as a video game, just because that sort of diving into a world that's already established. It came on a little strong just for me. I know other people really love that sort of thing. I think that personally, it's going to play better for me as a TV show. So I'm really excited to see it. And I hope it has a better launch than the game did. Next, Marvel Studios just announced an upcoming Thunderbolts movie in the works. Thunderbolts is basically the MCU version of Suicide Squad, so a bunch of villains coming together as an anti-hero group. And honestly, just about all the key players that were in this group in the comics have already been introduced in the MCU. You got Taskmaster and Yelena from the Black Widow movie, Baron Zemo, who was in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, as well as Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Disney Plus show, U.S. Agent, also from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You got Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. You got the Abomination from Shang-Chi. And then, of course, the Winter Soldier himself, Bucky Barnes. So none of these characters are confirmed a part of it yet. All Marvel did was just announce the project, but we can all speculate, right? Yeah. 7MC, which is a group of artists that have collaborated and formed pretty much a VTuber asset commission group. They just launched this month, and they are providing a lot of free assets as well as commission opportunities for custom assets, from PNG assets to Live 2D assets, which is a new capability for VTube Studio, where you can have a Live 2D asset moving on its own attached to you, as well as live reactive backgrounds. Though I gotta say, it's not cheap, y'all. Like, the backgrounds alone start at $1,000. So I'm pretty interested myself in commissioning in the future, but I'm definitely thinking a little hard on it because the price tag is steep. But yeah, that's pretty cool that they came out this month. Ooh, Squid Game Season 2 was announced, and folks are excited as hell about it. Personally, I actually had some issues with Squid Game when it came out. I loved the premise. Holy shit, I loved the premise. But the narrative kind of went a little south for me about halfway through the show. So I had some reservations, but I'm still excited for season 2. I liked a lot of parts of the show. It sounds like some key players from the original show are coming back, like the main character as well as the front man. And we're going to see some characters that were mentioned in season 1. It sounds exciting. And honestly, I really admire the journey for it. The showrunner that created the show had been working for 12 years to get the show on the air, and in a matter of 2 weeks it became the most watched show in Netflix history. So I'm all for an up and coming story, and I'm gonna watch it regardless. So I'm excited about that. Oh, the long-awaited sequel to Hollow Knight, Silksong, finally had a trailer release this month, and the hype was real, y'all. We got a sneak peek at Hornet, who is the main character, her abilities, as well as enemies and bosses that she's going to be facing in the game. Alas, we still do not have a release date, but Team Cherry, who is the publisher of the game, has hopes to get the game out to the masses by June of next year. So it is coming, but just maybe not this year. And then finally, My Hero Academia Season 6 had its trailer released, but it had no subtitles. But you didn't need subtitles because it got the point across that this season's going to be freaking rad. The season is slated to take us deep into the Meta Liberation Army arc in the manga, which people say, I've never actually read it, but people pretty much stand by this being the best of all the arcs. So I am super excited to finally see this. We got a little taste of it at the end of season 5. Season 5 was a little lackluster, but I think it's setting us up for kind of an epic season. So the season premieres October, and that, folks, is In Case You Missed It. Let's go ahead and move on to our next segment called Ngozi Zooms In. In this segment, I'm going to pick a piece of pop culture, or I'm going to pick a genre of pop culture, just something, and we're going to deep dive into it. And this month, the zoom in is going to be horror movies. Let's talk about what goes into making the perfect horror movie, in my opinion, in Ngozi Mai's opinion. There are great ones. There are not so great ones, and there's all kinds of genres and tropes. But what makes a truly good horror movie? Let's break it down and zoom in and figure that out tonight. Let's start with the genre. There are a lot of different fucking genres for horror movie. Holy shit. You got zombie movies, you got psychological horror, gore, aliens, paranormal and supernatural, monsters, viruses, slasher flicks, home invasion. There are so many genres. And a lot of these buckets are oversaturated, making it really hard for the good ones to stand out. The gore genre tends to be kind of niche, you know? It's very extreme content. It's about as extreme as horror movies can get. The splatter subgenre for gore is a little bit more mainstream with movies like Battle Royale, and Kill Bill is another movie like that has like pretty much what splatter is if you like make a cut into someone and then blood just like torrential blood just like exits their body. That's what splatter is. And that seems to be a little bit more mainstream. It's when it starts getting into like the guts and the torture porn, when people start getting a little squeamish about it. And the movies in this category tend to veer a little closer to NC-17 rather than the R spectrum. Movies like Hostel and Saw are about the extreme limit to what you can get away with in a rated R movie, because apparently those are just fake looking enough to be in R-rated territory. Psychological horror tends to be more mainstream, as the fears are relatable, right? They're believable that it could happen to you. Home invasion films like The Strangers, pictured here, feed into the deep fear that most people have about people invading their homes, you know, and not feeling safe. And I think that relatability is why those films tend to be more commercially successful, that people like go see them in masses, because they're relying on the atmosphere of the film to do the scaring rather than grisly murdering, you know? Killer flicks are also generally commercially successful, but usually only when there's like some gimmick attached, like Freddy Krueger. He's got knife hands and his skin is burned, right? And he kills in dreams. Those are the ones that seem to be the most successful. Excuse me. This genre is insanely popular. It was extremely popular back in like the 80s and 90s, where birthing massive franchises like Halloween, Friday the 13th, the Freddy Krueger series. You got Leprechaun coming in a series, and like the series of slasher movies and franchising was like the big thing in the 80s and 90s, you know? Sadly, we're at a stage now where this genre is so easily replicated that it's just become the most saturated genre. There are so many killer flicks released all the fucking time. Pretty much almost every scary movie that's released is a killer flick, because they're cheap. It's cheap to make them. You don't have to pay for a lot of special effects. It's literally just some dude murdering everybody. And it's become the kind of the laziest and most formulaic version, the most formulaic genre, and it always ends predictably. So that's why as you can imagine, Cozy probably doesn't like killer movies very much. It takes a lot for me to like a killer movie because it's just so easy to do. It's lazy. It's lazy to me. Monster movies are also pretty saturated, but they can also be some of the most creative horror movies out there. You know, there are a lot of monster movies out there, but the thing is, there's also a lot of different kinds of monsters out there. You know, there's zombies, vampires, werewolves, gargoyles, trolls, leprechauns, fucking the Loch Ness Monster. You can make a damn movie about the Loch Ness Monster. If humans have made some kind of mythology for a creature, you can make a scary movie out of it. And I think that's the reason why monster movies, as saturated as they are, can still do well a lot easier than, say, a killer movie can, right? And I think that's actually why it's my second favorite horror genre anyway, because you can go the easy route and do zombies or an alien, or you could do something unique and have something like Gremlins or giant spiders. Have you ever seen Eight-Legged Freaks? That's like a B movie, but it's like super fun to watch because it's just a bunch of poorly CGI animated giant spiders going around killing everybody. It's really rad. So this genre, while as saturated as it is, I think it's actually the most flexible, because it doesn't actually have to be a horror. You know, it could be comedy or action too. Like kaiju movies, those fall into this category too. You could call those horror movies, but I mean, you know, they're monster movies. So my favorite genre of horror, the one that scares me the most, is paranormal and supernatural horror. I am not a religious person, but there's still something deeply terrifying to me about the unknown. things that defy physics and reason and nature itself really scare the shit out of me, like demons and ghosts and curses and possession. I'm not saying I believe in those things, but they scare me. Like they let me suspend my disbelief enough to like scare me a little bit. And this is a pretty saturated genre too. And honestly, it is done poorly way too often. Like there are way too many fucking supernatural horror movies out there that are just poorly done. And you can't even like blame it on bad CGI and stuff, because when it comes to bad CGI, that comes down to bad management. You know, if CGI is bad, it's because they didn't give the CGI firm, they didn't give the visual effects firm enough time or money to do a good job, right? So you really can't blame it on that. It really always comes down to the filmmaker who's at fault. So, but when it's done right, it can be freaking effective. Let's talk about our protagonists. We talked about the genres of horror movies. Let's talk about the protagonist. This is generally known as the final girl. She's likable. She's relatable. You root for her to survive. She's usually the only one who survives the movie. And in a lot of cases, she's the one that confronts the big bad in the climax of the movie. This trope is seen in so many freaking horror movies that it's a trope. This happens so many times that this is a trope for horror movies. You can't even count how many movies have done this. And a good horror movie that has this trope gives this character depth. Gives her more than just, instead of having a character that all of this is just happening to, this character takes control and drives the plot somewhere. That is what a good horror movie will do. In Alien, you had Ripley, who was played by Sigourney Weaver, and she's a total fucking badass. She's a total fucking badass. The alien has killed her whole crew. Her whole crew's fucking dead right now, and she's like, "You ain't gonna kill me or the cat." Like, there's a cat, and she saves the cat. It's rad. She goes into like she ejects into like one of those like pods, those escape pods, and she takes the cat with her, and it's awesome. Anyway, that was a side. But yeah, she fucking like puts her brain together and kills the fucking alien and escapes. That was a sequence that kept you on edge the whole time. The whole time they have you. They took you as an audience member and they had you that whole scene, and you were rooting for her. And Ready or Not, who's pictured here, that film, she is basically about a woman who is engaged to marry this dude who's rich. And she like comes from like not a rich background. So they kind of his family judges her a little bit, and he takes her to meet his family. And his family has a weird tradition where they have to play a game. They have to play a game of some sort, and she picks hide and seek. And in this rule of hide and seek, she has to hide. And she thinks it's like an innocent hiding, right? But the family's trying to kill her. They have to kill her by dawn, or they all die, because they made a fucking deal with the devil or some shit, and they're all gonna die horrible deaths if they don't kill her by dawn. The satisfaction is that she survives the night. She goes through all this shit, and she survives the night, and they all die absurdly bloody deaths. And the audience is kind of just left sighing with satisfaction, because it wasn't enough that she survived. It wasn't enough that she survived. It was that they also like all of the bad people in the group had, or in the movie, had their comeuppance, and that's kind of the satisfaction, right? So do you know what? If you get what I mean, like the final girl has to be relatable. You have to root for her. You know, they need to be likable. Otherwise, we don't give a fuck if the characters die, right? If the characters die, and if we don't fucking care if the characters die, why the fuck are we watching the movie? You know? Yeah. So anyway. Let's talk about the big bad. This is the threat of the movie. Whatever the genre may be, there's always going to be a threat. And this is our source of danger, and a good horror movie can establish this well. Previously, this was done easily. Like this, the commonplace thing to do in filmmaking used to be to just have a very scary looking being farming jump scares, right? And that used to work. That used to be the formula that got you a blockbuster. I don't think that's good enough anymore on its own, at least not on its own. Makeup can do a lot. Can do a lot. If y'all have been following Stranger Things, the new season of Stranger Things, the big bad in that Vecna, his makeup looks fucking scary. And honestly, that alone is pretty good. But what really sells his character is the acting and the writing. He's got a very rich, deep backstory. Even when we don't even know his backstory yet, there's mystery, there's mystere behind him. You want to know why Vecna's doing this, you know? And like you have to have that complexity now. I don't think it's good enough to just have a scary looking character anymore. It's not. What you see here is pictured as Jason Voorhees. All he used to do in those movies, in the Friday the 13th movies, is walk around all slow with a knife in his hand and kill people. That's all he used to do, you know? And that worked in 1989. That worked back then. Audiences have evolved. Audiences have evolved. It does not work anymore, you know? Yeah, anyway, if the story, like I said, if the makeup can do a lot, but if the storytelling and the writing and the cinematography doesn't stack up, the movie's going to tank. It's going to tank. As a result, some of the best horror movies in existence have big bads that are never even seen on screen, or they only appear a couple of times on screen. And in some cases, they're in plain sight the whole time, and you don't find out until later when there's a plot twist, like, oh shit, they were there the whole time. Those are like the best movies these days because they're smart, because they give the audience a little credit, you know? Excuse me, these types of movies are so effective because the filmmakers are forced to sell the threat from the foreboding atmosphere and the acting and the storytelling. When they don't have that scary being following our protagonist around, but they still have to make it scary, they've got to do some fucking work. You know, so the example of this is The Thing from 1985. That is one of my favorite horror movies of all fucking time. Like, if I made a top list of top 10, it's on top 10. In that movie, there's number one, the atmosphere is set because they're all kind of trapped in Antarctica, one of the most isolated places on Earth. They're trapped in Antarctica and they realize they're trapped with an alien that has the ability to shapeshift flawlessly and perfectly shapeshift into any living being with perfection. So that if they shapeshift into me, you would think they're me, you know? So like, that's why that was so scary when they established that up front, such that at any given moment when you see all of our characters interacting on screen, one of them could be the alien and you don't fucking know who it is. And they don't know who it is. The audience is put in the movie. And I think that's what makes that so effective, right? Making the audience part of it is what makes that form of storytelling so effective. And when the alien is finally revealed, we all feel helpless and terrified. We feel what the characters are feeling, you know? So that's what I feel like. The root of the big bad it can't just be a scary looking person. It can't be just a scary looking creature. It has to have depth. It has to work with the whole ecosystem of the film, the cinematography, the writing, the storytelling, the acting, the direction. It all has to be cohesive. It's not easy anymore. There's no formula to it. Let's talk about the stakes. The audience has to feel the urgency of the situation in order to buy into the terror. The old way of doing this was through the killer picking heroes off one by one and that gradual build to the last one left, and that would give the audience that thrill. But that trope is so overdone, and audiences have evolved so much that the most successful movies get creative in driving up those stakes. It's not just enough for everybody to just die one by one, because that's what the audience expects now. You know, you see the beginning of the movie, you see this group of like 5 teenagers that go to a cabin. You know all the motherfuckers gonna die except one. You know that there's gonna be one person and you're gonna know who that person is immediately. You know that they're gonna survive. So you don't care about the characters. Those other 4 characters, you don't even connect to them because you know they're gonna die. But the most successful movies make you care about all of the characters, so that if they die, you don't even know whether they're gonna die or not. But if they do, it's gonna hit you. A Quiet Place, which is pictured here, did a phenomenal job at establishing the stakes because of, number one, its unique premise. They tell you the premise right away. When the film opens, you see this family, mom, dad, and 3 kids walking, and I think also the mom is pregnant at this point. She hasn't had the baby yet. They're walking along a path of sand, and it's very noticeable that the sand doesn't belong there, and they're all barefoot. You're like, why the fuck are they doing that, right? They're all quiet. They're speaking in sign language. Like, we already know the premise is monsters that because we saw the trailer. We know that it's monsters that react to sound. They're hyper reactive to sound. They have extreme hearing. But just the way that they establish this, that if they make a single sound, it is death. And how they establish the stakes is very heartbreaking. This is a bit of a spoiler. It's spoiling the first 5 minutes of the movie, so just going to throw that on for now. So how they establish the stakes is their small son, their youngest son, has a toy. in his hand. He's a little baby. He's like 4 years old. He doesn't know any better. And he turns on the toy. The toy starts making a really loud noise. And the mom and dad and the family all look back at him in horror because they know what's about to happen. They know what's about to happen. And what happens is that monster comes over and he runs as fast and he just scoops up the son and kills the son. That's in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Spoiler alert off. If that didn't tell you the stakes, whatever, it made you care. You see this family trying to survive. They lost their youngest son because their older sister just accidentally forgot to take the batteries out, and she's deaf. She didn't even know. She didn't even know what the fuck was going on because she's deaf. Like, it's just this one small mistake cost him his life, and the audience speechless at that moment. So A Quiet Place was a movie that fucking established the stakes, and they held you too. That's the next segment I'm going to talk about is how, when you establish the stakes, that's how you get the audience started. That's how you take them. They have bought in. How do you hold on to them? Let's talk about that. How do we hold the audience through the runtime? We have to do this by maintaining the atmosphere in order to keep the audience's disbelief suspended. As soon as we lose the audience, it is going to be fucking hard to bring them back in. Even if the end of the movie is like amazing, even if it's like an insane plot twist that makes you go, oh my God. If you lose the audience, that's it. An example of that is, if you've seen *Malignant*, that was a movie that came out last year. Honestly, that movie was so fucking boring. I tried on like literally 5 different occasions to watch the movie, and it was so fucking boring for the first hour and like 10 minutes. And then it had a huge plot twist. It had a huge plot twist about like 75% into the movie, but they lost me by that point. They fucking lost me because of how I was just bored. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the main character. When they did the plot twist, her stunted acting made more sense. But I think they just bought a little bit too much into that plot twist, which is another thing we're going to get into in a little bit. But they bought so much into that plot twist that they kind of did not do a good job, in my opinion, of holding on to me as an audience member. And honestly, when they did the plot twist, they had already lost me at that point, so I didn't care. So generally in horror, the atmosphere must be dreadful and tense. And you cannot let up on that when it starts. As soon as you let up on it, that's what you're going to start losing. It can be done. It can be done if you're very intentional about it. But as soon as someone makes like an a joke or something that just like kind of is totally out of the tone, like somebody's going to click out of it. You know, some people's going to be like, what the fuck? That was a really weird joke. What the hell? In my case, it's physics. I'm a very nerdy person. So whenever I watch a movie that is like, the premise is very rooted in like science. This happens in space movies a lot. When the space movie is not trying to be real, they're not trying to be physically accurate, I can enjoy that. But when they try to make rules, when they try to make it physically accurate, but then they break those rules halfway through, that takes me out of it. And that's personal. That's just me personally. But it takes me out of it, you know? And everybody's got those little things. Every audience member has those little things that it'll just take you out of it. So like the biggest thing, if you want to be a good movie, keep the atmosphere consistent, keep it dreadful, keep it tense, keep people at the edge of their seat. A good example of a movie that did this well is the one pictured, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Due to the setting being in a morgue, it was already pretty dreadful from the get-go because, you know, it's a morgue, there's dead people, right? The tone was already a little dreadful, but it was still human because the characters were being introduced at this point. You know, they wanted you to get used to the dad. The dad is like a stickler. He's a coroner, and he lost his wife years ago, and now he's like pouring himself into this work. And you got the son. He's a young kid, and he's his dad's apprentice as a coroner, but he has a girlfriend, and he wants to go like be a normal dude, and it's not very normal to be a fucking coroner, fucking around with dead people all day. Like it was introducing the characters, so it was lighter, right? The stakes in this movie were established from the very first scene before we even meet those guys, because the very first scene was around the mysterious deaths of a family who presumably was like a murder-suicide, that dad went crazy and killed everybody, but it was still under suspicious circumstances. And the only thing that they found other than the corpses were this freshly exhumed body who was mysteriously preserved. Like her whole body was just preserved. No cuts, no bruises, nothing. She was just dead. So that was mysterious. But that kind of gave you the stakes. Like it opened up on that. So stakes are set. Once this body reaches the morgue, and the coroner and his son are going to start the autopsy, they're finding more and more strange things about the body. So like there's things like the body is horribly mangled on the inside when they cut her open and look at her, like her skin and her bones, and she is horribly mangled on the inside. But the mysterious part is that her outside is totally pristine, totally untouched. And as they find more and more things wrong with her, things go wrong. Things just go, like the tone just goes more and more dark and dreadful when supernatural things are happening and noises are happening. And it's kind of, the movie goes in a way where the audience members kind of begging them to stop the autopsy, because as they go more and more into the autopsy, it feels more and more like they're signing their death warrants. And this atmosphere that they maintain throughout the whole movie just really, it holds you. They hold you. And they don't let you go. And there'll be times where the movie will trick you into thinking that, oh, okay, they're going to get out. Oh. But then it pulls the rug under you. Like, no. It's dreadful. It's just a really, really well done movie. They really established that atmosphere and they held it. Let's talk about jump scares. Every horror movie needs jump scares, right? Maybe. That's debatable. There are movies that are out there that have no jump scares. Like there's a movie called Witch that is actually kind of fucking really terrifying. I really like that movie. It has like almost no jump scares. So no, a horror movie maybe doesn't need jump scares. That said, the jump scare, the reason why somebody would argue that you do need jump scares is because you need that adrenaline to bring you back, to wake you up in the action. Which is in that... which I would say is more of a niche movie that horror enthusiasts like myself love. But maybe commercially, most people might think it's boring. And that's where jump scares come in. It's to keep it commercially acceptable, if that makes sense, And the unfortunate thing about jump scares is they're pretty fucking hard to pull off. Filmmakers these days will just throw as many jump scares as they can, with the big bad popping out like, eh, and a big surge of music. And that'll get a scream out of a lot of people, but it's not memorable. You don't remember jump scares. Think about like all the jump scares you've ever seen in your life. Can you really remember any single one? I do remember one. Because there's some movies take it seriously, Some movies are very intentional about their jump scares. They build to it and they really earn the reaction out of the audience. It's methodical down to the very slow building music that stops at just the right moment, seconds before the scare. The camera is very intentionally focusing on a space because the best filmmakers will use this technique because they want you to focus on something. It's called indirection. Like if y'all know magicians use indirection all the time because they don't want you to see all the juice stuff happening. They want you to see what they want you to see. And the best filmmakers do the same thing because then they'll make you focus on that thing and then they'll do the jump scare somewhere else and it'll really be really effective. Insidious, which is pictured here, did an amazing job with this. The first Insidious movies, the sequels are questionable, but the second one's okay, but the sequels are a little questionable. But the first Insidious movies, fantastic horror movie. And the way that they did this is the moment that stuck with me. This is one of the only jump scares I've ever seen that I still think about to this day, was revealing the face of the demon that was holding the protagonist's son captive in the dream world. Basically, we knew up to this point that something was holding their son. Their son Dalton's in a coma. We find out that it's not that he's in a coma, it's that his spirit is literally gone from his body and it's stuck in the spirit world and it's getting trapped by this demon. And this is the first moment we saw the demon's face. And it's memorable because not only is it like totally unexpected, but it's the first time we see the demon. Like they showed pictures, they showed shadows, but like this very intentional decision to put this jump scare here it was a very methodical choice that the filmmaker, I think it was James Wan, but that he made because he wanted people to remember this, and it worked. Let's talk about the plot twist. This is the last point. The moment in the movie that all hell breaks loose. This is the revelation revealing the mystery of the big bad, or it's the revelation telling how to defeat the big bad. This is what many films focus on. And as a result, they ignore most of what we just talked about for the sake of this one aspect. It's important, of course, because it is drama. You know, it adds excitement. You're like, it's the what the fuck moment where you go, oh, what the fuck? But it should not be there at the sacrifice of the story as a whole. M. Night Shyamalan is a repeat offender of this sin because he very continuously bases the entire film off of a concept and a plot twist. And that would work. That probably works commercially. Like what's pictured here is the movie Old. And the premise for Old is that this group of tourists are taken to a beach in some place in the world. And they're told, oh, it's the best beach ever. Cool. But then they find out that time is moving fast there, like really fucking fast. Like it's something like 10 years an hour or some shit. And they're all aging rapidly. And they're trying to figure out why it's happening, right? It gives a lot of drama and stuff. But like the plot twist was a little underwhelming. We find out, okay, spoiler alert for this movie, if you planned on watching this movie, we find out that the thing that was aging them was just like a phenomenon on the beach, that time just moves faster on that beach. And that they were put there because all of them have some sort of illness, terminal illness or whatever, that they want to test drugs on. Like they gave them a drug and they wanted to test how effective the drug was against their illness, which, okay, it's a creative plot twist. That's kind of a wet fart. It's a little bit of a wet fart of a plot twist. Like, you're just in here like, damn, I thought this was like super, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I thought this was like a grandmaster doing this in something, not science. I don't know. Maybe this is a bad example. I don't know. All I'm saying is M. Night Shyamalan, and he's done this before, like with The Happening. The Happening was when a whole bunch of, like every person in the world would just like compulsively commit suicide, which was a really cool premise. And they found out what the reason was. Guess what the reason was? Mother Nature was mad. Mother Nature was mad at the humans, so Mother Nature made them all kill themselves. That was such a stupid plot twist. And the movie itself was okay at that point. It was okay up to that point. And then as soon as they did the plot twist, shitty, right? So, oops. So that's my point. Like the plot twist is important, but it should not come at the sacrifice of the story. A movie that did a plot twist well was Saw. Again, we're going to ignore the sequels because the Saw sequels are a little bit of hot doo-doo, but the first Saw movie was a great example of a plot twist because it really was all about the setup, right? The premise is we have two men that are waking up in a bathroom. They're both chained to the wall. They're chained to like toilets or something. And they don't know how they got there. They are given some instructions, some very vague riddle-like instructions on what they have to do to get out of there. And they spend the whole movie trying to figure out, number one, why they're there and how to get out. Won't spoil that part. Am going to spoil the spoiler at the end. We find, so there the whole time, there's a guy that is seemingly dead in the middle of the floor the whole time. We find out at the end of the movie, that guy, he just gets up and walks out. He's the fucking mastermind the whole fucking time. They're spending the whole time trying to figure out whether they're addressing their sins, like they're there because they've done bad things and they're being punished. He's the guy that's punishing them. And the way I just said it was really anticlimactic, but it was just a really well done plot twist because it's one of those things that were staring you in the face the whole time. It was there the whole time. Right. And it was just very effective. And the whole movie was a very contained movie. It had a whole plot. It had all of this character development and all of this writing and all of these events that happened. And the plot twist just happened at the end. The movie was not in service of the plot twist. The plot twist was in service of the movie. And I think that's what differentiates that movie from others. In general, what makes a great horror movie is a solid story, relatable characters that you care about, very clear stakes established from the get-go, a well-maintained atmosphere to keep you after they catch you with the stakes, well thought out jump scares to keep the adrenaline pumping, and then finally a plot twist that nobody saw coming. And that, my friends, is Gozy Zooms In. Let's move on to our next segment tonight. We need to talk. In this segment, we are going to look closely at something that deserves my attention, something that maybe was once great and maybe kind of went a little awry. And let's speculate on the future. The topic this month is The Boys. Let's talk about The Boys. Let's first talk about the premise here. So The Boys is set in a universe where superheroes are around, like they're superheroes, right? And those superheroes are kind of treated like celebrities. You know, they're pretty much like treated like actors, kind of. They still fight crime and everything, but they're like, there's like tabloids about them, and they go to like red carpet premieres, and they're actors. They do movies. Like, think about MCU movies. If all of those were real superheroes, it's totally capitalized. It's totally like commercialized and capitalized. Like it's very much a mirror to American capitalism. Like, if superheroes were around in our world, we would probably commercialize the shit out of them and make a bunch of money, you know? So let's talk about some characters. First, let's talk about this. So our main group that we're following here are this group of people. They're called the Boys. Their leader, Billy Butcher, who is right here, is a British dude that had a wife, whose wife was dealing with Vought, the company Vought, who is basically the corporation that owns the superheroes. They're all about like they're I think they're a mirror on monopolization. Like, they are the monopoly. If it's has to do with superheroes, it's going through Vought. His wife was dealing with them. He, I think, was a liaison to the CIA. His wife got into a situation where a Superman-like character named Homelander, which we'll get into him in a minute, sexually assaulted her and made him think that she was dead. We find out that she's not dead. She got pregnant from Homelander, from him sexually assaulting her, had the kid, and she is being hidden from him because if Homelander finds out about her and the kid, he is going to be crazy. We'll talk about Homelander in a minute. So Billy Butcher is bitter as fuck. He doesn't like superheroes for that reason. And above all, he hates Homelander. So that's Billy Butcher. Let's talk about Huey. Huey's this guy right next to him. He was just a normal guy. He's a normal guy. He's kind of wimpy. He's kind of quiet. He's kind of nerdy. You know, he like goes through life like just like trying to live. You know, and one day he and his girlfriend are just like talking on the sidewalk. They're being all cute. And then a superhero runs straight fucking through her and murders her by accident. And then he turns back and says, "Oh man, sorry, dude." And then he runs off. And Huey's just covered in his girlfriend's blood. So that's the moment Huey hated fucking superheroes. Pretty much this group, they all have a reason to hate superheroes. They have a reason to hate the Supes because, number one, Supes are really shitty people. And number two, they just all had something shitty happen to them. You got Mother's Milk here on the right. His story is that when he was a little boy, he used to like idolize the superheroes, especially like a superhero named Soldier Boy. He used to idolize them as anybody would because they're like superheroes in real life. But one day or one evening, the superhero Soldier Boy was like I guess yelling at some dude saying, "Oh, you caused a crime," and it was right outside of Mother Milk's. I know, right, Soldier Boy. He right outside of Mother's Milk's house, and then Soldier Boy throws a car through the building directly into his apartment, kills his grandpa, and as a result, it gave Mother's Milk, for one, he killed his family, so he hates Supes for that reason, but it gave him like obsessive compulsive disorder because now he's thinking, okay, if I don't go and check the burners, if I don't check everything in the house every night, then Soldier Boy's gonna come back and kill my family, you know? So he's fucked up from that. Then you got Frenchie, who he's actually got a pretty mysterious backstory, like with like Russians and shit, but he has a reason not to hate superheroes too. And then Kimiko is the last one here, and she hates superheroes because she is one, and she hates herself. She was taken and sold, her and her brother, like in human trafficking, injected with that serum that makes superheroes, and now she's everything she hates. So these 5 people are our protagonist that hate Supes. Let's talk about the 7. The 7 are effectively the Justice League. The Justice League. That's effectively what they are. This guy in the middle is Homelander. Let's fucking talk about Homelander. Homelander is effectively Superman. Right? He's super strong, pretty much invincible. He's got laser vision, all of those things. He is Superman if Superman was a totally insecure man baby. Yeah. Think about Superman and his powers with a very insecure incel-ass motherfucker. That's fucking scary, ain't it? You're right to be scared because he's fucking scary. So he's a sociopath. He'll just like kill somebody and he doesn't even give a fuck. He thinks he's better. He thinks that all Supes are just better than humans. Like they're just the apex. They're the apex race in the world, and that's what he's thinking. And these ideals got strengthened by this bitch Stormfront. We'll talk about her in a little bit. And basically, yeah, he's just an insecure little bitch that is super strong and powerful and can fucking destroy the world if he wants to. Starlight is kind of the good girl. You know, she kind of represents the starry, doe-eyed little girl that wants to be like all the celebrities, like, but she's gonna keep her virtues. But she finds out real quick that no, you can't do that, because she gets sexually assaulted like on her first day of joining the Seven. And she joins the Seven because like one of the other members of the Seven got like ousted or something. I think he got hurt. It was Lamplighter. He got like hurt or ousted or something. So she joined. And she finds out that being a part of the Seven kind of fucking sucks, because they're all fucking garbage people. They're all garbage people. Her ability is like the ability, I think, to control light or electricity or something like that. I don't really. She doesn't use her powers very much in the show, but she is also Huey's love interest. So that's Huey's connection to the Seven. Let's talk about Maeve. We're skipping Stormfront for a second. Talk about Maeve. Maeve is effectively Wonder Woman. She's the Wonder Woman character. She's like strong and all this shit. She's also a raging alcoholic. She's really fucked up. She's bi, so like, because that's apparently a fucking like plot point in the show for some reason. We'll also get to that later. And like they really, her being bi should not have been a plot point in the show. They used it. They used it as satire, and I'm not really cool with how they used it, but it is what it is. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't like how they did that, and I know they were doing it for satire, but I mean, it still sucked. It's one of my biggest criticisms with the show is they use satire a little bit too on the nose on the show, and that was one of them. They also did a thing with A-Train. Well, let's talk about A-Train. A-Train is the token black guy on the group, who is and he kind of represents like it's actually kind of a good analogy representing like black folks that come up and don't give back, I guess, to the community. Like, it's not that they don't give back, it's that they like kind of forget where they're from, and they take the fame and the money, but they don't really use any of that to like help uplift the community. And they're actually touching on that this season, which I think is actually pretty rad. But like the way that they're doing it is that it's like now he's trying to like get in touch with his blackness, so he's changing his fucking costume to be all kente cloth and shit. Like it's so cringy. It's so cringy. And then you got Black Noir and the Deep. Who cares about them? But we'll talk about Stormfront in a minute. Let's talk about Vought. Vought is effectively Disney. If you're ever thinking of like just a company that owns everything, that's what Vought is. Like, they are the commoditization of superheroes incarnate. Anything that is superheroes go through Vought, and their influence is already huge because because the superheroes are at least appearing to save the day, even though we find out that they actually cause more quantifiable damage than they save. But because Vought owns the optics, they own the news stations, they own the TV stations, they own all of it, they get to present it however the fuck they want. So even though the communities they're devastating are trying to speak out saying, no, the Supes fucking hate us, they want to fucking kill us, they're projecting an image that the Supes are our godsend. The Supes are here to save you, and that's all. That's the fucked up part about it. That's the satire, because it's kind of true. Like, it's kind of like how it works in the real world, where the biggest corporations with the most money, they own the news networks. You know, Trump has his own fucking news network. Huffington Post is a left wing outlet. It's very progressive outlet, but it's owned by somebody. Like, people that have money kind of control what's in the news. You know, you think Ariana Huffington's gonna let HuffPost like post some fucking conservative shit? No, she's not gonna do that. Even if it's for the right reasons, even if it's for progressiveness and stuff, it's still somebody with money controlling what news goes out, and that's fucked up. And that's kind of what one of the many things that this Vought is supposed to like represent. It's just that money buys influence buys power, and power means you rule everything. So that's Vought's role in the show. Let's talk about the good. The good part of the show is that it portrays Supes as human. You know, when you see superheroes in like comic books and in Marvel movies and stuff, they're always seen as these perfect humans with perfect moral codes. Like even the MCU with its like it fucking tries to make them seem more human and to make them seem more flawed, but they're still always gonna be, I am gonna do the right thing and I'm gonna lay down my life and all that stuff. Whereas The Boys takes a more cynical approach. The Boys sees humans as selfish. The Boys sees humans as damaged. The Boys sees humans as people with mental health issues. You know, it's a much more human take on superheroes. And The Boys believes that if The Boys as a franchise, The Boys as a concept, they believe that if human beings had powers, it would just amplify it would amplify the best in us, but it would also amplify the worst in us. So if you are a person who is deeply insecure and deeply troubled and thinks about violent thoughts, and you were suddenly made into a superhero, that's not going to just make you into a good person. And that's what The Boys does. And I think that's pretty cool because it's pretty refreshing to see that. You don't see that. You either see villains or superheroes. You never see everybody, just humans with powers. And that's what The Boys does. Collateral damage. That's another thing that The Boys does really well. Or at least that The Boys like just does that you don't see. You see like in Avengers. You see in Avengers that how they took New York City and had an alien invasion in New York City and destroyed the whole fucking city. And a lot of people died from that. And guess what? We never talk about that. After the movie's over, like the next movie happens and New York City's just rebuilt. We don't talk about the people that died. We don't talk about all of the apartments that got destroyed. Imagine, y'all, if you lived in the city and somebody just threw a damn bus into your apartment. Who the fuck gonna pay for that? Even if you didn't die, who the fuck is gonna pay for that shit? You're homeless now. And that's what The Boys does. The Boys shows the collateral. In fact, they don't even really show the actual hero work. They just show the aftermath. And they do it raw. It's raw. Every single time a human, quote unquote, saves somebody in The Boys, more people died. If they save one person, they killed 10 people to do it. You know, and it's very, it's very exaggerated, but it's real. It's something, it's basically the whole Boys as a concept, the whole show as a concept is like kind of a fuck you to superhero comics in general, because it shows you everything that those comics don't. And I think that's a really rad thing. The cartoony, over the top gore is very unique to The Boys. Actually, I can't even say that because Invincible is actually also like that. If you've ever seen Invincible, they also have really cartoony ass gore. And it's funny because that's actually a cartoon, but it's really fucking visceral gore. And The Boys does that, you know? Because think about it. If Superman is going to go beat up a bad guy who's a human, you think that he's just going to give him a little black eye? No, he's going to punch his head off his shoulders, dude. He can't do that. So The Boys is very unapologetic with how it's showing the violence, because it's fucking superhuman fucking strength, man. You're not gonna your head's gonna pop like a grape. Like it's not gonna fucking give you a goddamn black eye or a little scrape. Let's talk about, so the satire. Okay, so the satire is a little on the nose sometimes. So this is Storm Point. And I actually kind of liked what they did with her until they started going really hard with the Nazi shit. But they presented her initially as this like progressive-ish kind of, I guess, libertarian type of if you've seen like wealthy Caucasian people on fucking like TikTok talking about, oh, this is how you live like me or something. Like they live in Portland and they eat vegan and shit like that, where they like act like they're very liberal, but they're really not. Because Portland if you didn't know, Portland is a very historically fucking racist city. So like that's the idea. Like they will that's what she represented. She represented those people that were like just closet racists, you know? And she was presented as like this force of like non-PC, say what I think. Oh man, I'm not no social justice warrior, all this shit. And then it was revealed halfway through season 2 that she's a fucking Nazi, like a literal Nazi. Like she was around in the fucking 30s, and her husband was like best friends with Hitler type of fucking Nazi. So it was like really like interesting how they did that, and like they would like make her into like this alt-right figure. And this was right over this came out like at the height of Trump too, with like all the alt-right shit that was coming out. And then pretty much all those closet racists that used to be fucking quiet about it suddenly got emboldened to speak loud and proud about it. And at that point, now in 2022, it seems like they went back in their fucking caves. But a couple years ago, they were fucking proud. And that was around the time that season 2 came out, and they held up a fat ass mirror up against that shit. So like that's just an example of like the satire that the show does. The whole show is a fucking satire. The whole show is a fucking satire. But like I guess my criticism with it is that it can't really decide when it wants to be like that. When it goes full satire, it's really jarring because the show actually does have a plot that it's driving. And then they'll just do some really fucking on the nose satire shit. And we're just like, oh, come on, that's just cringy. I don't know if maybe that's their intention. They just want to be a little cringy for a couple of minutes, but it's just weird. But this was a piece of satire that was really well done. Other things are like companies hopping on the bandwagon for social justice. Like for Maeve, Queen Maeve, she was not necessarily closeted. She wasn't like in the closet about her bisexuality, but she wasn't public about it. It was not public. And Homelander, the fucker, outed her on national television. And she's sitting here like she can't do anything because Homelander will fucking kill her if she speaks up. And then what happens? What happens? The company Vought commercialized the fuck out of her and made it so she's Brave Maeve. And now she's the face of LGBTQ equality for Vought. It was just so fucking weird. But I have problems. It's really problematic what they did. But I get why they did it, because they're making fun of companies in real life hopping on those bandwagons. Like the Me Too movement, companies saying, I stand with women and all that stuff. Like companies like, I think Blizzard did that shit. And then comes out a couple years later that there's all this fucking misogyny and sexual assault happening in fucking Blizzard. So it really was just a mirror to companies commoditizing social justice movements, you know. So the show does satire well when it does it well, but when it doesn't do it well, let's talk about the bad satire. This is an example of that. Look at this shit. Brave Maeve's vegetarian bride lasagna. This is the type of shit they were doing. Talking about like, oh, this is some LGBTQ lasagna. Buy this lasagna and you support LGBTQ. Like, no, come on, bro. I get it. I get what they're doing, but it's so on the nose. Not to mention, like, there was another thing. They've made fun of recently the Imagine. Y'all remember at the beginning of the pandemic, all them fucking celebrities did Imagine all the people. That shit. That was so cringy. That was so cringy. And that was 2 years old. And they did that in the last episode. Of fucking, they fucking did that shit again. I'm like, come on. I know they're making fun of it. I know, but it's so fucking cringy, bro. It's so fucking cringy. Oh my God. Also, the overuse of shock value. This show... It is so over the top with its shock value sometimes. What you're seeing here right now is a picture of Homelander drinking titty milk, because he has mommy issues. And there was a lady on the show that made titty milk for her son, and he snuck into the fridge and drank the titty milk because he's weird. That's so weird, man. That's so weird. Come on, dude. Not to mention like the whole head popping thing that happened in Congress. It was like a Congress hearing, and somebody was popping everybody's heads like fucking grapes. Just pop, 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 pop. Like, what the hell? It was in Congress. And also, there was another thing recently where there was a guy that had Ant-Man powers that can like shrink, and he fucking like crawled in. It was like a scene with him and his lover, and he like made himself small and crawled into his lover's dick hole. I could not believe what I saw. I had to pause it because I was in such disbelief. He crawled into this dude's dick hole, and then like he's got like sniffles because he did cocaine, and then he sneezed and became full size and like obliterated the dude. Like blood goes everywhere. He just like blows up the dude from the inside. It's just shock value, and that's like the whole, like every episode has like a moment like that. And the last episode there was a fucking orgy. There was a fucking superhero orgy in the last episode. The whole thing is just so shock value, and it makes for entertaining TV, but it's not very smart. It takes away from like the real good that the show is doing with the satire, in my opinion. Where are we going with this? So the show, I think it's really good at what it does when it does it well. When it does satire well, it really goes, shit, fuck, that is a fucking mirror. Like when they were doing the whole alt-right timeline, or the alt-right storyline in season 2, they did a whole bait and switch, because if you guys saw halfway through the show, excuse me, that character Stormfront was like kind of given Nazi vibes, until they didn't really tell you she was an upright Nazi until like halfway through the show. But she would just say some like suspect shit, and like she would like do some hero work, and like go out of her way to like kill a black family, but act like it was collateral, but she was like going out of her way to kill them. So it made you go like, wait a minute, was that on purpose? And all this time, the actual in real life alt-right loved the show. They were like, yeah, this show's awesome, yeah, because they were doing all this racist shit. And then they fucking kill her ass. Well, they didn't kill her at the end of season 2. They kick her fucking ass at the end of season 2, and she loses. And then suddenly everybody hated the show. All the fucking alt-right people hated the show. They said, this show sucks. This show sucks. Because now they realize the show is not an alt-right show. It's fucking making fun of your dumb asses, you know? And when they realized that, they hated it. So when the show does it right and they do it effectively, it really is good. But holy shit, is it cringy sometimes. Final thoughts. I still like The Boys. I love watching the episode. I watch every episode. I'm gonna watch the Friday's episode. I'm enjoying it. I just got gripes. The satire is good when it's good, and then when it's bad, it's bad. And that, folks, is We Need to Talk, and that concludes Pop Your Culture. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to invite on 2 guests for Talk Cozy to Me. So stick around for about 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, y'all.
Hello, folks. If you like what you're hearing or what you're watching, then please check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GoziMai. That's GOZIMAI, where you'll catch me playing video games, cracking dumbass jokes, and having a good ass time. I post my schedule every Monday on Twitter, so please come and say hi. And now back to the show.
Alrighty, folks. And we are back with part 2 of our show, Talk Cozy to Me.
Talk cozy to me. Talk cozy to me. Talk cozy to me.
Okay, y'all. Our first guest tonight is an avian VTuber and variety streamer on Twitch. Please join me in welcoming Corvus Twig.
To be here. It's great to be here with Gozy. Yes. I'm a bird.
Yes, I love it, love it. And our second guest is a VTuber who plays Otome games, creates fan translations of games, and even owns the second biggest Otome Discord server out there. Please join me in welcoming eBay.
Subscribed to Gozy for a good while, but this is my first time being on her stream, and I am just so happy to be here. It's so nice to see you all.
Yes, thank you both for joining us. Let's start off with like a little bit of an interview here. So first, Corvus, tell us a little bit about your brand.
Well, I'm a bird, but I go all in on being a bird. So one of the primary things about me is that I'm an amateur ornithologist. So, it's not my job, but every single stream I do a bird of the day. And I will educate you about a different bird every stream I do. And I'm big about, sharing the greatness of birds throughout the world with everybody, because birds are pretty great.
Hell yes. eBay, tell us about your brand.
So basically, my VTuber layout is basically that I am a dream girl. So I'm really into the shoujo genre. So I always talk about shoujo content and ultimate content a lot. So that's why I made my VTuber model as a dream girl, because I like the romantic and girly vibes and all. So that's my gig. I am a dream basically. So yeah, my content is basically, I really love games that have a lot of storylines in it. So that's why I like playing a lot of visual novels. So I'm just a sucker for media that's aimed towards women, and especially the romance genre. So that is my shtick.
Oh my goodness, I love to hear it. What makes you so passionate about that content? The being wow, is it the women, uplifting women? What makes you so passionate about that content specifically?
Well, growing up, I was never really, I don't know, I wasn't really I never caught feelings growing up towards other classmates or dudes like that. Or sometimes you're lacking that specific magic you want in your life. So then like, oh, these ultimate games, like depending on like the company or who writes it, because some of them are awful, just trash. Like, yeah, because like there are some men who write it like, oh wait, I don't like this. Like this
Mm-hmm.
isn't yeah, this doesn't go up to my fantasy. But like, yeah, sometimes, if you find a really good one, it's like it's really tailored to, like relationship wise, emotional. Most of the games I like are more emotional wise. So like I just love having that giddy feeling and talking about it with other women. And yeah, and because of that, I've managed to meet other women in the community who are creating their own ultimate games.
Oh,
And yeah, so then I'm like, so like we're uplifting and supporting each other, and that's how I got into starting my ultimate server as a way, to connect and grow. And then before you know it, it got really big.
hell
So
yes.
it's basically women supporting other women in women media, basically. So that's what I love about the genres.
Yes, I am a fan. Okay.
Hmm.
Corvus, why birds? Why birds? Tell us what makes you passionate about that.
I mean, look at me.
Yeah, fair.
But birds are just they're very fascinating creatures because they have such a broad and interesting range for them. So you have stuff like crows and parrots, and which are some of the smartest animals on the planet.
Mm.
And up there, they say like the average adult crow has an equal intelligence to a 5 or 6 year old human, which is very impressive. But then just there's so many other cool birds out there. I mean, who doesn't find something like an eagle or an owl to just be cool and badass?
Hmm.
And it's just there's just so much beauty out there, and just finding their different behaviors and how they're found literally on every continent, even Antarctica. It's just so cool. And I've just always been, ever since I was a little birdie, I wanted to know all about all the other little birdies. And it's just I don't know. It's just like, hey, why are you interested in this thing? I don't know. Sometimes you just are, and you want to learn all about them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But also, it's like when I was very young, I was raised in a pretty religious household, and part of my coming to being an adult was understanding and learning that, hey, evolution is actually real.
Mm.
And I think birds provide a really cool example of how evolution worked, and like the taxonomy of them, and that like former dinosaurs. And it's just like, it's, I don't know, something about learning about evolution kind of tied in with me becoming more fascinated in birds, because I think they're a great study in evolution.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I want to learn more about birds now. eBay,
Watch my channel, Bird of the Day.
hell yes.
Hmm.
eBay, tell me about an interaction that you've had in content creation that was really impactful for you.
Oh, an interaction. An interaction. That is. I actually, just to give some people some context here, I was originally a YouTuber. Like I uploaded a lot of videos on YouTube, and then I started to stream a little bit on YouTube. Then I switched to Twitch. So I wouldn't back when I just made videos and never really had any interaction content like with others until I started streaming on Twitch. And I have to say, seeing other like streamers like really marketing themselves out there, like making TikTok shorts or clips and uploading them, or interacting with each other. Like it really made me realize how much of an effort people put into streaming, because I never really had to do this like kind of thing when I was just uploading videos on YouTube. So it really got me, I don't know, like really motivated for some reason. It made me more motivated to do new works on my content creation.
Mm.
Like before I did like yeah, like on my content creation like on stream and also on my regular just uploading YouTube videos. So now I've been trying to upload little snippets or like previews of like my translation work, my fan translation works. I've been trying to market that here and there. So I found other ways, to reach out to other people like, oh hey, I'm also producing this content. If you're interested, please take a look. So yeah, I guess marketing wise, that really made me impactful to see there's a well, streaming and content creating is no easy work. Like
Mm.
you can't just like upload videos or just stream and that's expect like, okay, yeah, that's all my work I'm gonna put into. No, you gotta do like more than that. So like
Mhm.
saying all of that really made me motivated. Like, like if you see hardworking people, you kind of want to be hardworking too. So yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
can definitely identify with that. Our consecration is hard.
it is super hard. Yeah.
With that, Corvus, if you had unlimited resources, money, time, etc., anything you needed, what would you do in your brand? What would be the first thing you did?
Uh, I think what I'd really do is try to improve my bird of the day videos to be so much more broad in scope, because right now they're basically just PowerPoint presentations, which is fine for what I do. But I'd really like to get a good bird photography camera and go out and actually get my own photographs of it, get video of birds, be able to do like proper, like real video with it, and be able to just, almost make it like a real nature documentary about each bird rather than just a PowerPoint presentation, and really just, step up, the visuals and the sound and all that great stuff. I mean, I'm pretty happy with what I got now, but if I had more budget and time, I could really put some time into making something that, like, I'd like to have something that would be like worth showing on Discovery Channel or something. Well, I mean, Discovery Channel of 20 years ago, but you know what I mean.
Wait, Discovery Channel's not around anymore? Wait, okay.
No, it's still around, but I don't know last time they showed a nature documentary.
Oh, fair.
That was like their thing back in the 90s. I
Yeah.
think, okay, how about an Animal Planet thing?
There we go. There we go. I hope
Even
there's
though
still
Animal Planet's nothing but reality shows these days, too. It's just like,
Oh
the
man.
cat whisperer with.
I would actually like unironically watch that. Cat
Oh, it's actually a pretty good show. It's like the guy who does it, his name is like Jackson Galaxy or something like that. And he's like a total weirdo, but he's like super good with cats.
Oh my gosh.
And-
Okay.
I love
I was
that.
looking that up. Cool. Yeah, eBay, what's the most important thing you've learned about content creation?
That's a really good question. I learned that like no matter what you're into, if you make it really interesting enough or whatever you upload, there is the audience for that. And if you make yourself out to be really interested, you're gonna get the attention and attraction you want eventually. It won't happen just out of the blue. Like, it's like it builds up like slowly. So yeah, before uh my first time making like my first step into the content creating world was just me like uploading gameplay videos on YouTube. It's like, oh, in case I lost this game and I want to replay it again, I could just rewatch it on my YouTube channel. So that's how I started off. And then later on, I would find these niche games that I would play. And since I'm into ultimate, um that genre is pretty niche as well. So in that niche community, there are popular games within it. So I would even upload some of these popular games in that community, and I would notice that I would get like a tons of views, and then comments saying, "Oh hey, I really love that you're uploading this." Um, and I think I remembered I don't have it on anymore. I think I forgot why. It got deleted. But I would even like post Japanese games. And people were like, "Oh, I love this. Do you know how to read Japanese? Because we would love some translations." And that's how I got into translating some Japanese
Oh.
games. So yeah, I'm not fluent in Japanese. Most of these translation works I've gotten friends to help me with. So then, because of that, that's how I started to like, oh, okay, I see that this audience, this community just really wants this type of content. They want to see, okay, like English translation of this, I will do that. And that is no easy work. A 10-minute video takes me 6 hours to translate.
Oh,
So it's super
goodness.
hard, but it's very rewarding in the end because I see a lot of people who are very grateful, like, oh my God, thank you. We've been waiting for years for this to be localized, but it's not localized yet. And you're the only one who's providing this for us. So thank you. And then it just kind of grew from there. I made a couple of videos like, oh, upcoming like events or news in this kind of community coming up. And they'd be like, oh, I had no idea this game or this publisher was making this and that. Thank you for, your updates and all. So I kind of found my footing in content creating. like I said, like the ultimate genre is not big. I mean, it's getting kind of big in a sense. Like we are getting more localizations and more noticed, and we're getting games who are falsely advertising as ultimate.
Oh, that's a good
So,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, that means you
yeah,
made
yeah. Exactly. So we're getting annoyed by that too. So
it.
like my what I created in my content, yeah, it didn't seem as big, but the impact, the fans, the people who found my channel and found things interesting, I really love that I get to provide for them and give them like news and updates on what's going on. So that was, that's something that was most important for me, or the thing I learned in content creating is that like no matter what you do, no matter what you like to like what you're into and all, whether it be big or small, if you're really passionate about it, you'll gain some people who say, "Oh, hey, I like this person. I like what they're doing. They have a lot of passion into this work. Let me go look at it." So I really believe, yeah, passion and hard work is what strives you to, get noticed. So yeah, that's the most
Absolutely.
important thing I learned.
That's a good lesson. Absolutely. Corvus,
Yeah.
how do you describe what you do, your content creation, to your family and your friends?
Basically, I just said that, I wanted to try getting into streaming and, you know, just as a kind of a hobby to have fun. And then I said that, well, I didn't really want to stream as myself. And so I thought it'd be, I kind of say it's like, it's more fun to play a character, be a cartoon character. And I said,
Mm,
yeah, I like the birds and I want to go with bird things. So I'm a crow. I'm going to be a crow. And so it's just, I explain it's just like, hey, it's like if I put on a character, I can do so much more than if I'm just as me.
mm.
Am I really breaking kayfabe right now? But that's okay. But you know what I mean? It's just like I think that's true with a lot of VTubers. Is just like, you know, I mean, not just VTubers, but I think everybody's got a little bit of insecurity about themselves. And I think when you're able to be a character rather than yourself on stream, I think it lets you be so much more open and free and creative. And so that's kind of how I explain it. Just like, yeah, I want to be a character. I want to have fun and
Mhm.
lets me do a little bit of improvising and have fun with it. And then also really kind of have a theme and people just like, oh, that sounds fun, yeah, it seems nice. And yeah, I just kind of basically, but how do I describe, I mean, the most way I describe is I just tell them the truth about it. I don't try and hide anything. I mean, it's just there's nothing really weird to hide.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like it. Any
Yeah.
upcoming projects, eBay and Corvus, that y'all wanna do a shout out to?
Well,
Oh.
on August 13th, I am going to be hosting a Fall Guys VTuber tournament, and
Oh,
it's going to be all for charity. And we're raising funds for the Minnesota Raptor Center, who is been really doing a lot of great work. The avian flu's been hitting large birds of prey pretty hard, and they've been basically the only organization in Minnesota who's really put a lot of work in to help treating birds and stopping the spread. But they also do a lot of recovery for injured birds. They're a great organization. And I thought it'd be really fun to do Fall Guys tournament since it's free now. So yeah, what a better way to do it? And that's on August 13th. And if you're a VTuber, you should sign up.
Yes,
mhm.
please do that.
Sign up.
As Yeah, yes, please sign up. As for me, for like content related stuff, not really, but like, well, in my Discord server, but I'm not gonna promote it over here. I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna say that like in my Ultimate Discord server, yes, I do. I have talked about like uplifting and promoting other members of the Ultimate server. Like I help them promote their games, and I've noticed that there are like people who want to volunteer or work or make games together. So I am going to talk with my mods team, and we're trying to discuss, okay, let's create a section of the channel where we could basically say, hey, you want to build a team, are you looking for a place to make an ultimate game for, type in here or sign up in here to let others know that you are looking into making ultimate games or shoujo genre games. So yeah, we're trying to build a special group where say, oh, I need an artist or a programmer to make this game. Well, there you go. There's someone that says, hey, I'm into that. I want to work with someone to help you create this project or something. So yeah, that is what we're currently working on.
rocks. Hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Eva and Corvus. With that, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment on that real shit.
Yes.
Time to get real.
I love it.
About a month ago, I observed a controversy that happened in the VTuber community. A large male VTuber held a role-playing date night stream with his viewers, and it was interrupted by one of his peer VTubers in his group, where she entered the chat talking about something unrelated, which presumably ruined the immersion for the viewers. It was rude, yes, but otherwise a pretty harmless interaction. However, many members of that male VTubers community proceeded to harass his peer on social media with death threats and insults, saying, "How dare you interrupt my date with my boyfriend?" And I was intrigued by that. How on earth did these women convince themselves that they were in an actual relationship with this person that they'd never even met in real life? I learned that this phenomenon was called a parasocial relationship, and it is actually a very broad and interesting topic. So I thought it'd be a great one to discuss tonight. So we're going to talk about what is a parasocial relationship, how are they formed, what is the impact, and then what responsibility do content creators have to ensure their community does not get out of hand with it? So let's start with what is a parasocial relationship? eBay and Corvus, what is your definition of a parasocial relationship?
So my definition of a parasocial relationship is when a viewer, or it could be streamer too, is either one of the other has a weird fixation on thinking like, oh yes, like this person is my friend, or they build this fake, not, I guess I would say delusional friendship with this person, even though the other side does not know them at all or feel the same way. They don't know about their existence. So that is what a parasocial relationship is to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's basically like being a fan of a celebrity, but going so far that you actually think of them as like a friend or someone you're in a relationship with. Because it's like it seems like celebrities almost like, hey, people know you, but you don't know who they are, so you're famous. And it's just,
Mhm.
but it's just like when the fans just, yeah, they take it a little bit too far, and yeah, feel like it feels like they actually know the person. Of course, 99 900, like all but the rare occasions you don't know the person, you know their public persona.
Absolutely. Would you say that there's a level at which it's okay? Are all parasocial relationships bad, or are they like kind of normal until they go too far? What do you think?
I think a little bit of it can be okay. I think it helps to establish like a bit of like an in group, and it's like because I think that like especially times is if the person you're having the parasocial relationship with is describing things that can be important and deep topics, it's nice to be able to be like, hey, there's somebody out there who kind of understands me. I think where this happens a lot is with like podcasters,
Hmm.
where people start to feel like podcasters are their friends, but it can almost kind of be like, hey, even though I don't know this person, I feel like I'm not alone in what I'm going through or what I'm interested in. So I think it can help alleviate people's feelings of loneliness if it doesn't go too far.
Hmm. Absolutely. So parasocial relationships aren't particularly new. They're new to me because I never really actually considered this phenomenon before. But they've actually been around for a long time, like celebrity, and in form, like you mentioned, like in the form of celebrity adoration. And it's usually pretty innocent until it's not. For example, child stars, like when their perception of that person stops being a person, when they're just like a commodity, kind of like child stars like Shirley Temple. Whenever you Google a picture of Shirley Temple, people think about her as a little kid, but she lived to be 60. And you'll never see a single picture of her like that because everybody sees her as it one way. So, and then like Marilyn Monroe, same thing. Like you only really see pictures of her when she's young and the way that society wanted to see them, right? And if they went out of that view, if Marilyn Monroe went to go dirt biking or something, like people would be like, oh my god, what? Oh, she shouldn't do that. So how does perception play a role into it, with the way that people perceive these people that they're idolizing, and then if they step out of that role, they react kind of bad? What do you think about that?
Well, for me, Okay, well, I would like to answer the first the second question because I didn't really get an answer, and I think it kind of segues into this current question. So I think we all have a little bit of parasocial relationships, like some are way too extreme and some are not that extreme. Like if I think we all do. I think we all kind of form a parasocial relationship without realizing it.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I love like watching this one actor in this TV show or movie, or hey, I love watching this streamer all the time. And then sometimes they do like interviews or little videos where like they show their more like relatable side, and it makes us connect to them in a way. And I feel like there's a reason why we have a favorite streamer or actor or singer is because we kind of relate to them in a way. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's I feel like in that way it's kind of like a parasocial kind of thing. So yeah. But so I think I think in a way we all kind of do form it. It just
Mhm.
depends on the extremity of it. So let's just say like yeah, I don't know cuz sometimes there are like I can't explain it, but yeah, like he said, like sometimes when a certain celebrity or I guess figure does something that kind of doesn't fit the image they build or something, and some fans are like, "Hey, why are you doing this? This isn't the you I always see." Oh, it's like I feel like that part, like the people who are like that are a bit obsessive.
Mhm.
Like I don't, yeah. So I'm like, well, not like I feel like that's a little part of the extreme because like you only know their what they show like on when they're on camera and all. And wait, sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, it's like the perception when
Mhm,
like how does perception get warped when like let's say like for like the example was like Shirley Temple, so
mhm,
they
mhm,
see her as a little girl, but she like grew up to be 60 and she had views and
mhm,
stuff, and people probably like chose to like cut out a part of her and just kept the part that they wanted to see. Like is that
mhm.
where's the ethics of that?
Yeah, that's pretty. That seems pretty like I would. Hmm. I don't want to say abusive,
Hmm.
but controlling in my idea because you're not seeing them as a person. You're like seeing them as an object. Like, no, I think that you're basically idolizing that person, and I think that's taking it too far. Because like, no, I only want to see you in this specific setting. Oh, you're an old lady, or oh, you have these kind of views. Well, I'm just gonna actually ignore that. I feel like that's too extreme,
Hmm.
and yeah, I feel like fans who have that kind of mentality, I can't relate to that because I never had that,
Hmm.
but I feel like they should step down a little bit and then like I think they should like think to themselves like they're not just an image or that I want to obtain or like a purified like angel. They're a person and they have these like I don't want to say flaws, but I guess character traits or stuff like that. Or yeah, flaws. They may have flaws that they're not perfect as some people think they are, and I think we should accept that. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a well, and I mean, it's kind of all across the board of this. It's like everybody, celebrities. I feel like especially celebrities, if they're working for movie studios or musicians, if they're signed to a big label, they have other people controlling their image. Like, I mean, like
Mm.
everything about Elvis was curated and specifically designed to be a brand rather than Elvis just kind of being himself. And he was not the first, and he's definitely wasn't the last. Um, but it also feels like I thought something you were getting to, like with Shirley Temple or Marilyn Monroe. Jesus Christ. There's some, well, again, even Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
had an image to keep up. He was probably a normal dude in most of his life, but he had to keep up the I'm the dark, evil, gothic thing. Of course, then he turned out to be a horrible abuser, and fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
Mhm.
Mm.
But you know what I mean? It's like, I guess Marilyn Manson is somebody who is, he's like, he has an image to upkeep, somebody who's like in a dark death metal band. Somebody sees that guy lounging around in jeans and a t-shirt, just being a normal dude. It kind of shatters that. But I guess going more to what your point was with Shirley and Marilyn was that women aren't allowed to age.
Mm,
And I feel like that's one of the biggest tragedies of the world is that women are have to be held up to where they were in their quote prime unquote. And after that, they don't get as much, it's like even actresses who continue to work late into their lives, when people talk about them and show images of them, they're showing pictures of when they were younger.
yeah.
And it's kind of messed up. I mean,
Yeah.
look at all the stuff that happened with Britney Spears. I mean, she's a
Oh,
case study on this
Oh my
entire
gosh.
thing.
yep.
And
Yes.
poor woman.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the levels of parasocial relationships, where the line is become between an innocent fan versus parasocial attachment. So a fan is more if you admire someone, you would just go to see a movie because they were in it. You don't feel like you're friends with that actor, right? So like
Yeah.
I imagine like a follower or a subscriber on social media, probably okay. Attachment to a character in a show, like say like if you really like the character in Lost. I don't know. That's a bad example. I don't know. I've never seen Lost, so I'm just using that as because I know a lot of people have seen that. But I mean, then
Early is my husband.
back when Lost was on the air, and then Lost ended, and now people feel like kind of a breakup almost, like because their character is gone. Is that healthy?
No.
No.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I would say no as well. I mean, yeah, we said the show's over, like, oh, what am I gonna watch on Tuesdays now? But to feel like you have a breakup, no.
I mean, people do get really, really strong attachments to characters. I can't remember which anime it was, but I think I remember hearing about there was like an anime that had been going on for a while, and then one episode of the manga, it implied that the main female character was not a virgin, and the mangaka got death threats for that
What? Oh my gosh!
because
Wow.
they spoiled their perfect princess. It was just like Jesus Christ, people.
An anime character, like a manga
Anime character.
What in the hell?
And it's
Ingenuity.
yeah,
It's
there's definitely a lot of different levels, and it's kind of
uh-huh.
it's like okay, you can, and even then it's just like okay, like I do listen to a lot of podcasts,
Hmm.
and I've been listening to some for like 8+ years, and so you're hearing people and they're conversational, not scripted. So it's like at the time it's just like I do kind of feel like I know these people, and if I were to meet them in real life, I'd go. But it's just like do I? And it's just like it's really hard to know when you've listened to hours of somebody talking and they have a different persona, but still their real life comes through. And the weirdest situation that I personally have is with the comedian and actor Paul Shear. I
Hmm.
don't know if you know who that is, but he's been in a lot of T-Mobile commercials. But he does some voice acting. He was like in Black Monday. He's been in a lot of stuff. But anyway, he hosts a podcast, How Did This Get Made?
Oh yeah,
And
I
he
saw that
started
live. I saw it live in Seattle.
yeah, so you see Paul.
Yeah.
But anyway, he at the beginning of the pandemic opened up a Discord, and I'd been a long time fan of the podcast, so I was one of the first people to join the Discord. And then I had been pretty active, and he asked me to become a moderator of the Discord. I'm like, yay! And then around the same time, he started doing a Twitch show. And a lot of times you have people from the Discord on the Twitch show. So I've been on his Twitch show like 6, 7 times now. So it's like
Whoa.
I've interacted with him. I moderate his stuff. I've had like text conversations with him and a thing. Okay, but like, are we friends? We're
Hmm.
not really friends. I mean, it's just like I'm just a guy he knows on the internet. So it's like, is this a parasocial relationship? Or is this just it's like what it's like I don't know if that like it feels like it's like exactly straight on the line of parasocial and not parasocial relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's almost real because you've actually interacted with them one on one, but it's like also like you never met, so it's like it's weird, right?
Yeah, it's like we're not friends, but like I feel like I know the guy pretty well. He knows who I am. It's yeah, I don't know. We're
Interesting.
associates, Bentai says. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me of like so this reminds me of like a Japanese game full of like there was a Japanese game that was mainly full of girls and it was a big hit. And then they were gonna do a spin-off game where it was just boys, but it was not related to the girl at like there was no ties with the game where it was mainly girls. But the men audience were so upset because they had questions like, please tell us this like the game with the guys takes place in a totally different universe. And they asked us questions because they didn't even want the men to exist like to be in the same universe or world with the cast of girls.
What?
Like
Oh my God.
that was how bad this parasocial relationship is in the game. Where it's like, I know you're making a whole different game that's no way has any ties with the girls, but this better be in a very like alternate universe, or else I will stop supporting the games with the girls. I'm like, oh my god. It's like the most intense, like parasocial thing I've ever seen.
Well, and
So yeah, and they had to clarify.
nuts.
They had to clarify. They made a decision like, yes, this is an alternate universe. They don't exist in the same universe. So the company had to give in to those demands because those demands were
Wow.
so high.
That is
So yeah,
psychotic.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I don't know. I guess as VTubers and stuff, we know that parasocial relationships happen within VTubers, and I think
Mhm.
that like for the big companies, I think they encourage it. Like you think about like, okay, how many women are in Hollow Live? They're
Mm.
talented, funny, smart women who are making good amounts of money. I would say the majority of them are probably in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mhm.
they cannot, absolutely cannot mention that on stream
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
doing so and like they're not allowed to like they should be free to openly say that they're in a relationship, but they're literally not allowed to because the parent company knows that they get a lot of money from people who are in parasocial relationships with these girls and are throwing money at them because I don't know, out of some sort of desperate thing that they think, oh, if I throw $500 at Maury Calliope, she might notice me, and we could. It's like
Yeah.
it's like they're feeding into a level of delusion.
Mhm.
Which they're kind of doing because like they do get a little bit of a shout out, right? Like it would if they donate $500 to Maury, like she'll like say, "Ah, thank you for that," and like I guess they get like
Yeah,
a gratification from that. Like, oh man, I feel seen, I feel noticed.
Yeah. Or you have like, the viewers who do donate, but then like like, maybe that streamer has a lot of donations, so they didn't specifically see your like that one viewer's donation. So that one viewer gets like so pissed off and been going around on Twitter and in the
Mm.
comment section and everywhere and said, like, how dare you? I've been like a subscriber and donator for blah 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 blah, and you forgot to say my name this one time. I'm unfollowing or stuff like that. Like I've seen both of those cases. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really crazy.
That's a good
Mhm.
segue. Like honestly, like the entitlement part of it, especially when money comes into it, is another thing. I saw somebody post on Twitter recently about that. Like that, I guess somebody was a donor for multiple months or a subscriber for multiple months, and then DM'd that person saying, "Why haven't you like responded to me on chat? Like I give you all this money." So like, what's up with that? Like the entitlement people feel when money's involved. If it's supposed to be like a donation, why is it that people feel like they're buying you? You know.
Question. Like, I feel like would you donate a lot or like like I think well, I don't know about this one streamer's case, but usually people will say the name, oh, thanks for the donation, and if they leave a message, sometimes they'll leave a message. So I feel like maybe this one donator was, donating a lot, a lot, a lot. And well, you said that like he didn't get noticed on stream, right? Or
Or something
yeah,
like that, yeah. Which there could be
yeah,
lots of reasons. Like maybe that streamer
yeah.
doesn't feel comfortable with that person and like
Yeah,
doesn't want
so
to
that
acknowledge
that
them.
oh
tells
yeah.
that tells me like, hey, how come you haven't, acknowledged me? That tells me that one donator has done something before that made the streamer feel very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I guess they think like, okay, well, they're obligated. Like I'm donating this much amount, so they're obligated to, do or whatever, like do whatever I say or want them to do because hey, without me, they won't have this money. So I think that's where like they won't be this successful. So I think that's where the ownership or controlling takes place on. Because like I'm the one that pays you. Now do what I say kind of thing. So that's what I think their mentality is. Yeah. Which is very toxic and not true.
Toxic as hell. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So that's a good, I guess, segue into so going back to like the line between fan and parasocial attachment. We already talked about some pretty extreme cases, like with the whole if somebody from Hololive that happened, y'all know that happened. Like somebody from Hololive, it got a Discord message popped up on their screen that was from their boyfriend, and then the whole fan base like blew the hell up, like saying, "Oh no, she has a boyfriend! Oh God, she's ruined!" Like, but then you have the cases like that other VTuber, like I mentioned, that male VTuber whose community kind of went after one of his peers. And not, I'm not going to name that VTuber. I think y'all know who it is. They initially were quite hostile to the criticism. Like they were being criticized, saying you need to get a hold of your fans. Your fans are being toxic to that person, and he kind of rejected that. He was like a defensive, and he acknowledged later that was the wrong reaction. He shouldn't have done that. But what level of responsibility falls on the content creator themselves when their community is exhibiting toxic behavior like that? Like, what level of responsibility do they have to police their community?
Oof, that's a good question.
I would have to say, like, I do know who that one VTuber was, the male VTuber, and I think, well, the thing is, most of the content they make is aimed towards that. Like there are like ASMR videos. I haven't seen them, but people have told me, and I have confirmation. There are ASMR videos where the viewers are blowing. Yeah, so I feel like but like, well, kudos to YouTube for allowing that. But like I feel like I don't know. It's like some people are into those sensual type of ASMRs, and if they like it, go for it and all. But like, and I do see that there were fans that said, hey, like they tell other fans like, hey, you can't say this, you're gonna make us look bad. But like I feel like you have to I don't know, it feels weird to say like you have to make a reminder like, hey, like just so you know, like I'm not your actual, this is just strictly ASMR. So I feel like I don't know, because nowadays with how strong Parasocial is, I feel like streamers, to avoid this, they would kind of have to clarify like, hey, I'm providing this content because I see a lot of people enjoy this, but just to make sure like everything's cleared off, we're not actually dating or a thing. And for VTubers who like there's a whole ton of like different kinds of VTubers. There's like VTubers who just play games, VTubers who just read, VTubers who just cooks. Like I feel like there's a whole type of different variety of VTubers.
VTubers who talk about birds.
Yeah, yeah. So like VTubers, I think, who kind of like aim toward these like parasocial kinds of people. I feel like I won't really judge them for that, but like the thing that I would judge is that if it goes too crazy and they are threatening like other people and stuff, that's when I have to be like, okay, maybe you should talk to your fans about all of this. Because there are a few streamers I know who do pander to these kind of audiences, but they let them know like, hey, I'm in a relationship, I'm just providing this content for you guys because I see that a lot of people enjoy this and I know you enjoy it, but it's strictly just at that. So I feel like providing that kind of clarification, yeah, it would scare away some like viewers, but this parasocial thing, like, yeah, I said like depending on like the extreme of it, I feel like if you say it that way, like, yeah, the very extreme people will go away, but like there's a lot of like fans are parasocial. So I feel like the extremists will go away, but you'll still have a good handful. Because I don't know why, but parasocial stuff are just popping nowadays, especially with like these sexualized or girlfriend or boyfriend dating ASMR kind of videos. Like, okay, props to them. They know what's popular and they're going for that. They're getting their bag. But let's do it in like a healthy way, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Do,
So
do
that's
you
my take on that.
Well, I got a question for eBay. Do you think
Mhm.
if somebody intentionally makes that their brand and really leans into it and tries to encourage parasocial relations with their fans, do you think that could be seen as exploitative?
Yeah, at that point, it would be really exploitative, and
Mm.
if they don't really, like, correct their fans, because like that one person, I thought they were very exploitative because that one male VTuber, because he was he was really defensive,
Mhm.
and I got a really bad vibe with that, because it reminds me of another popular male streamer, not a VTuber, I won't say his name, but that one streamer is notorious for saying, "My stands are fine. You guys are just like, my stands don't dox anyone. It's just a small handful." And then they kind of low key admitted that they enjoy it when their stands, when they have a big enough stand base where they attack people. Like those type of streamers, I utterly despise.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like, that is super exploitive because you are taking advantage, of someone. Like they're not, I don't want to say not in their right mind, but this is not like a healthy relationship and they know it and they're still aiming for it because hey, I know this is bad, but they're my biggest like money, they give me like the biggest donations and all, so I'm gonna like lean into this, and no matter how toxic or weird they might be, I'm still gonna allow it because they're my bigger source of income. I feel like that is very terrible.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do not vibe with that. Mm-mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's definitely a really big issue. Like with not to kind of like not it's still like parasocial relationship related because it's rooted in parasocial relationships, but when a
Mm-hmm,
content creator
mm-hmm,
has a large community and they kind of use their community to do bad things. Like there was I guess
Oof.
I learned about this when all the hate raids were happening on Twitch, that there's an
mm-hmm.
alt-right version of Twitch. There's like a whole other
Oh
website that's an
Lord.
alt-right version of Twitch, and some asshole got all of his racist ass viewers together and said, okay, now let's go raid and hate raid people on Twitch, because they got kicked off of Twitch. They were doing it on Twitch and they got kicked off. So they went to that new platform and then went back to Twitch and would like hate raid people, and he would just rally all of them and on everybody in his platform. And who knows, like there's probably plenty of like young kids on the platform that they don't know shit, right? And they just found this guy and they're like eating up all the racist shit he's saying, and they're becoming racist, right? So it's like
Yeah.
it's fucked up when they like use their community to perpetuate bad behavior. I feel like that male streamer, his whole or the male VTuber that we're talking about, I think his whole shtick was that it's a character he's playing and he's pandering to that audience because that audience that's working, right? Like you were mentioning, it's something
Mm-hmm.
that's working and he's leading into it. But I don't think he actually like had hate in his heart. Whereas like I think that dude on that, I know that guy on the alt right Twitch did have hate in his heart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Go ahead, Corvus.
No, just sorry, my disgust. Yeah, yeah, so hateful. It's just like I don't. And yeah, I think it can be a big problem where people can use their fans to do really bad, like, but it can also be done to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I think, for example, like I think there's been some big content creators. Like I know John Oliver has like called for people to do big actions against things that are really unjust,
Mm.
and has actually made like a big difference by getting all of his fans to stand together because he's got the big platform and he was able to do some pretty good, progressive things by getting his fans, who probably felt a little parasocial relationship with him, banding together to do a good thing to, help, right a societal wrong. So it can be used for good, and it's like, okay, is it exploitative if it's being used for good? Where's the line?
Mm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm not equipped to answer that.
It's gray. It's
But
definitely gray.
Yeah, I do want to mention, I go back to the topic with that one VTuber, because the response where they like got upset is like, they basically said like, "Oh no, this is not, it's only a small handful," and they got like, defensive. I
Mhm.
think, well, this is just my take on it. I think at first they didn't want to acknowledge it because they didn't want, like to see a decrease in their income if they did acknowledge it. I think
Mhm.
that's why they pushed it that way. Because like if it was me, I'd be like, well, I think it was the majority of us would be like, yeah, this is bad. I'm gonna address this. So I think that's why, they went around that route because there's a lot of like, this one big these big I guess streamers who do the same thing. They don't
Mhm.
want to acknowledge that because like, no, they're my biggest, donators. If I say this, I'm not going to get any donations. So I feel like at first they said like that's why he didn't want to say that because like, oh no, they're my biggest source of income. But like the seeing the like overwhelming like upset fans are like, how dare, like, hey, I supported you, but now I see you're going down this path where you're gonna be like oblivious to this. I can't support you anymore. I think that's when they open their eyes, like, okay, no, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to defend a small group and lose, the majority of it. So I think that's why they kind of went for like addressing the situation because they saw what was at risk. Like, okay, no, I'd rather have the majority. I'd rather stick with the majority than lose the few big ones. So
Mhm.
yeah. So I think that's why they made that. And I don't know if that's kind of scummy or not of them.
Hmm.
I'm just glad that they made that address video like hey, okay, I actually see it is a problem. Now
Yeah.
I'm addressing it now. So yeah. That's
What?
my take
Yeah.
on the scene. Mhm.
Which is it's more than a lot of other people do because like you see a lot of streamers and this happens a lot where because whenever you get big, if you get famous, people are gonna like scrutinize the hell out of you, right? Like even if
Mhm.
you got picked up by like Niji Sanji or something as a VTuber, your previous life, people gonna find it. They're gonna find it like
Yeah.
as soon as your debut happens, and they'll scroll and
Mhm.
scroll and say you have a tweet from 2012 where you said the N word or something, and suddenly you're canceled. And how a lot of people, especially VTubers, Jesus Christ, I don't know if you guys saw the whole like month of May was just multiple, just all kinds of racism in the VTuber community, and
Mhm.
holy shit, like the responses for some of these people. There was one VTuber that said, I think she was doing like a freestyle rap or some shit on her stream, and she said the N word with the hard R,
I saw
and
that.
her reaction to that was silence for one, which silence is bad, by the way. Like that silence is just accepting, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and then they either go for the straight for the apology, which great for doing that, even though it may be like kind of a veiled apology, like they're just doing it because they feel like they have to, or they double, triple, quadruple down on the thing that they did. And it's just always wrong. Is there a right way to do it? Because for me in that situation, I'm just like, I don't know if there's a right way to go about it. I think you just got to take the hit, own up to it, lose the followers, and recover. But what do y'all think about that?
I think an apology is worthless without actions to back it up. So
Hmm.
maybe you do say something that, maybe you do drop the hard R at some point. I mean, at that point, it is pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at that point, you do a heartfelt apology. You reach out to people of the community that you've hurt, and then you donate money and time to organizations that they recommend you support and actually do work to try and heal. And then when other people are talking, that's when you boost their voices and shut up yourself.
Mm. Mm. What was your reaction
Agreed.
to that, eBay? That whole situation? You said you saw that
Yeah,
as well.
I saw that. At first, I don't know the streamer, so when I saw that, I was like, when she said that the hard R, and then she realized like, wait, I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't know the context, so I was very confused. But then I saw that there was like a streamer's name that rhymed with that hard R, so she was trying to to find words that rhyme with it. And then like out of the moment, it was that word. And for that, like, okay, that's understandable. And like if the streamer's name would match with that, like I think like I would think of that too. And she was like freestyle rapping, so I think with that you have to say whatever is in the top of your head fast. So like big oops on her. And I did see the apology, but I do want to say like going back to Corvus, you know, like you had to do some actions and just words. The thing that at first I was like, okay, yeah, that was like a really big mistake of hers. She shouldn't have done that. You know, she was probably gonna take a hit, but she should, you know, accept it and, you know, like say, hey, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not, you know, I don't condone that at all, you know, and go on. But I had noticed that she started to like tweets like defending her, and then I'm like, like saying like it's just a joke, like you shouldn't take it so seriously. And I'm like, this kind of backfires your apology in a way.
Especially
I was
considering it came out that her Discord is apparently like a 4chan ass cesspool that she just lets
kind of,
happen.
yeah. And that's another thing. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that some streamers they're not active in their Discord, so they're like they like big ones as well because they don't want to really interact with the fans, you know, give them the parasocial relationships. So I know like some big streamers they don't see that and then like see what's going on. And in that case, I could see like, oh, like yeah, she probably didn't realize it was like a 4chan thing. But if you are going, you know, to create a Discord server, you have to know what is going on in there. And that was one of the reasons why I was very hesitant on making my own Discord server. Because I feel like, oh, I'm not gonna be, you know, that active and all. Or, you know, like I have my ultimate server and that has my full attention. I can't really focus on two potential big servers. So yeah.
That's why a
hesitant
good
on that.
moderation team is absolutely necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, a moderation team. And you have to be really careful and picky about your moderations. And you have to be really, really strict with these rules. Like, hey, this is what's okay and this is what is not okay. So I don't know how she runs it. Maybe she has loose rules or hard firming rules. But I feel like if you're that big, you have to have a huge list of rules on what's okay and not okay. And you have to have a huge moderation team that goes like hard on these rules. Like I don't know about like I don't know if she's done that. I don't know anything about her Discord, but her, you know, like kind of liking the tweets. I say, hey, no, it was just a joke, or you guys are taking this too serious, or you got seeing those type of tweets that she liked. I'm like, this kind of, you know, kind of backfires. Like, I don't really fully accept your apology. Like, yeah, I do believe you didn't mean to say that, but I don't think she knows how hurtful or impact it was. I don't think she knows it to that extent. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really okay with this.
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually. So yeah, that's my message to folks out there. If y'all see somebody on Twitter that did a problematic thing and they apologize, go look at their likes. Go look at their likes, because if you see them liking a whole bunch of people defending them, saying, oh, it's just a joke, then you know exactly what that apology meant. Because you're right. She was like retweeting some stuff that I was like, okay, that's kind of making your apology look like bullshit, but okay.
Yeah, so, I'm like, I'm kind of sketchy. Yeah.
So
I mean, I get it. Like, I get like if you're that part and you feel like super cornered, like, and no one's taking your side, I feel like, you know, she feel like drowned in these hate message and all. So maybe that's why she liked it. But even then, like no matter how like deep down you are, you gotta have to really think. Well, I guess at that point it's hard to think, but you have to like, if you're feeling that bad, it's like, can you like imagine the other people who might have felt bad thinking you said this seriously? It's like, please don't go on liking those tweets, even if you feel like you're in the darkest corner, because it's not just about you. So yeah.
And that's that'd be go ahead, Curtis.
Well, as I said, like an example of how to do it right, I think is Weird Al Yankovic. In his song Word Crimes, he uses the word spastic. Now, which to an American audience, that's not that bad of a word. But in Europe, it is kind of equivalent to the R word for describing, you know, people with disabilities. And he used that word in the song, and he was called out for it afterwards. And he was just like, I legitimately didn't know people found it offensive. I didn't know it had that kind of things. I apologize deeply. And then he stopped performing the song. And so it's like he had a heartfelt apology. He seemed genuinely apologetic about it. He didn't like any tweets about anybody saying that they were being too sensitive about it. And then he literally has not performed the song since. So it's just like, yeah, he did like I don't see how he could have handled it any better because but I mean, that's the thing is that Weird Al is probably actually like a legitimately good guy.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I have a parasocial relationship with him. He seems like such a super nice guy. But I mean, from everything I've heard from everybody who's ever met him, he does seem like a genuinely good person. And he did seem genuinely apologetic about it. And his actions reflected that.
Mhm.
When somebody's apologizing, you can tell if they're just apologizing to apologize or if they're actually sincere and feeling guilt and want to rectify it. Like you can tell.
Hmm.
Like the tone is there.
Absolutely. And in terms of doing it the right way, it doesn't have, like, back to what eBay was saying, it doesn't have to be fast. Like, you're feeling attacked, you're feeling cornered, you did something wrong, you feel guilty, and it's okay to feel those feelings. And it's okay to think about what you're going to say. The silence isn't good. So this is my I'm getting a little preachy here. This is my message to everybody as well, is if that happens to you, it's okay to just post and say, I hear you all. I hear what you're saying. I need some time to learn. Please give me some time, and I will come back with what I learn. And then just do it, and then come back with what you learned, rather than doing a notes app apology that means bullshit, or reacting, lashing out at people. Like, it's okay to think about it. It's okay to think about how you're going to respond and how you're going to take accountability and stuff. But yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, if people say your actions hurt them, believe them.
Mhm.
Yes,
And
please
even
do
if
not brush it away.
even if you didn't intend to hurt their feelings, we all do stupid stuff.
Oh yeah, part of
Like
being human.
yeah, and it's just like your intentions are good, and if you listen to them, you accept that they were hurt, and you try to make amends, they'll probably forgive you.
Mhm.
Especially, they'll understand you didn't mean to hurt them. But doubling down just says, yeah, I did mean to hurt you. So screw
Mhm.
you. I'm going to
Mhm,
keep doing
yeah.
it. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry you were offended. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right, let's close off with the impact of or parasocial relationships. So I guess starting with the negative, then we'll go to the positive. So what is the negative impact of parasocial relationship, especially in terms of like social media, giving people like a platform? Like, what do y'all think about that?
I'll let Corvus go first because I feel like I've been like talking a bit too much.
Okay. Yeah, I take it. Um,
Uh-huh.
I mean, the negatives are there's negatives like literally on all sides of it.
Mm.
Mhm.
I feel like people who get parasocial relationships, they're harmed because they're not establishing real relationships.
Mm.
They're getting sucked into, a fake relationship with somebody they don't really know rather than making real connections with people they do know. And so that harms them and harms their own mental wellness and their mental well-being. Obviously, it can hurt the content creator. It can hurt people it's just like they can be used to, people in parasocial relationships can be used to, make, like I said, those threats and harassment against people who may not be the person who they're in the relationship with, but somebody, like the woman who came in and ruined the immersion. It's
Mm.
just, I mean, obviously it can be a bad situation for everybody who touches it.
Mm-hmm. Libe?
For me, I feel like I honestly don't see like a good side to this. So I think the negative side is like like what Corbus said, they're not forming like real relationships, and to be like depending like on the parasocial, like if it's like an extreme case, I feel like you've probably like these people probably had some like underlying issues, or they probably had a rough time, and they're not getting the kind of like healthy, I guess, relationship or support group they have, and then they just kind of see like, oh, here's this one entertainer, they're always so fun and entertaining and bubbly, and they say stories that relate to me, they're my best friend. And I feel like that's not great. And if you because like I've seen people like tweet out like, oh my god, I adore you, I love you so much, and like because I will say got a strange message in one of my DMs, and it was from someone I don't know,
Hmm.
and it was just a essay long of how much they loved and adored me, and like it was just incredibly long, and I don't know this person.
Hmm.
So I remember I explained this to some people, and I don't know. They said like, "Even are you insecure? I would love that." But I'm like, "No, not me. I don't know this person. They're talking to me as if they're my long term friend. It's
Hmm.
kind of unsettling for me." Yeah, like I know literally nothing about them, and they're just saying you're the perfect person, a beacon of light. You are, everything I always imagined. I'm like, I don't, what is that? What is that to you? Like, what if I break that immersion? How would you react then? Would you send me, well, a long paragraph of you hating on me just as you are loving me right now?
Hmm.
So it's really strange. Like, I feel like, yeah, those are the negative aspects of parasocial relationship. You kind of like have this weird, like, I guess, idolization of someone, and it's not true. You're just seeing what they're only wanting to show you.
Hmm.
And so you're creating this fake friendship for probably years if you're watching the streaming for years. And like, oh yeah, they're my best friend. And then it's like, what happens if they do something you don't like? You are gonna be devastated and full of rage
Hmm.
because you've been manifesting this quote unquote friendship for years. And like I don't want to see how that looks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. I guess the positive that I see out of it isn't really on the extreme side of parasocial relationships, more like having a platform, a content creator having like you mentioned with John Oliver, like him having this really, really strong platform of followers that are very like they follow him religiously, right? And he can make change with them, like get them to go flood a website of a racist company with like bad reviews or something, which maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe it's not a good I don't know, maybe if he decided to use that for evil, he could. But it's more like it's a community of people that people can feel like they can, like they belong, like they have this thing in common where they all love that show or love that person or something. I guess that's kind of a positive that I see out of it, but I see how that can get out of hand.
And if the person is expressing views, especially maybe something that, maybe you are listening to a podcast about a really niche topic. It's not a super popular one, but you're listening to people who are talking about something that maybe you're interested in and not many people are. It can, I think, help people feel a little bit less lonely sometimes. And I think as long as you go into it with a healthy attitude of knowing that this content creator isn't actually your friend,
Mhm.
and that you just realize, as long as you keep a realistic expectations about the whole situation, I think it can kind of be like, hey, they're not really my friend, but there's more people out there who think like me, and there's other people in the community and the fandom and stuff. And I think it can help people feel a little bit less alone and a part of something. And I think that if like I said, if it's going with a healthy attitude, I think it can be a positive and uplifting thing. I've joined a lot of groups of people. Like, I mean, even just be like, I was a fan of bigger VTubers before I ever became one myself. But since I've become a VTuber because of it, because of our shared interest in the whole medium, I've made a lot of really good friends and people who I actually do consider to be friends now. Because it's not that I watch their stream or they watch my stream. We interact with each other. We collaborate. We
Hmm.
talk outside of anything having to do with content creation. And so it's like, because of our fandom of bigger VTubers, we've come together, become part of it ourselves, and I think it's, especially in the last couple of years where loneliness has been a real issue. I think it's something like that can be a really great positive. Again, as long as you keep a healthy attitude about things, I think there's definitely good sides to it.
Yes, there's positives. Yeah, you just made me realize why I became a VTuber as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, I did admire this one big VTuber. I yeah, I remember the first time I saw VTubers, it was Kizuna Ai when she like first debuted,
Hmm.
and I was like, what the hell is this weep shit? Yeah. So like yeah, so then I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I think like a game came out and I'm like, oh, is anyone streaming it? I want to see someone stream it because I really like the game. So who's streaming it? And then I saw that there was one big VTuber who's streaming it. I'm like, oh, okay, let's check them out. And it turns out I really, really got hooked into their streams and their personality. And then they were explaining why they became a VTuber one day and how, why they got inspired and why they got into, this big company. And it made me feel like, wow, I could do that too. I kind of got
Yeah.
inspired in a way, and that's what kind of made me go into VTubing. I basically relearned how to play piano
Oh,
because
Wow.
because because they were into piano. I'm like, I kind of want to get into piano too.
hell
So
yeah.
I got a
But
nice habit of that.
I suppose
So
one good example would be Iron Mouse, because Iron Mouse has medical condition that
Mhm.
prevents her from being able to leave, and she was never able to get good medical care. And through VTubing and her fans supporting her, she's now risen to the top of Twitch, and like honestly couldn't have happened to a better, more deserving person.
Mhm.
And she's done so much good for herself and her health and also her family, thanks to people who throw money at her.
Mhm. Absolutely.
say, yeah, another thing about like, I guess another positive thing about parasocial is like I said, like there might be like, parasocial is kind of a weird thing. And depending the extremity of it, it could be like you may have some like, underlying relationship or like issues or something, or maybe you don't have that support group. Like yeah, depending on the extremity of it. So I think like I've seen some, it's not just VTubers, but big streamers say, like, hey, like, like parasocial is a thing and all, and I don't know you, but I appreciate you. But if you're ever feeling like you have this and this, or like I'm going through this and this too, I'm getting help. I would love it if you guys, if you notice these stuff in yourself and it's bad and all, like I would love if you, try to improve it in yourself. And now, like I've seen streamers say that, and I've seen some people saying I was really inspired or motivated by your story, or your inspirational talk about overcoming this, or like saying telling streamers, hey, if you have this and you think you have this, like I would love it if you better yourself. Like because of those, I actually have made myself into a better person. And it, I think stuff like scenarios or like events like that, is really motivating and very, yeah, it is helpful. You're becoming a better person. I guess in some ways. So yeah, I guess that's another bright side about some parasocial things. So yeah.
Absolutely. Any last
Mhm.
remarks on parasocial relationships, Corvus and eBay?
Yes, please fall in love with me and give me all your money.
I will say if you're really attached to a streamer and you love him a lot, don't get too offended if they don't notice you, or be, because it's tough, being a streamer, trying to juggle, like reading chat or doing whatever you are doing in stream. And like also, don't expect, to become best friends with the streamer. The streamer is there to be your entertainer, and
Hmm.
they're there to provide you entertainment. They're not there to be your actual best friend, even though they might provide some services like that. Like, it's nice to, we all enjoy specific entertainers, and that's fine. But like don't be, disillusioned thinking, no, they are my best friend. I think, yeah. I think, but as long as you don't do that, I think, you're fine. hmm I'd say that's all I
Absolutely.
have to say. Yes.
All righty. Thank you again, eBay and Corvus, for coming onto the show tonight. And thank you all out there for tuning in. By the way, as mentioned before, Corvus is hosting an all VTuber Fall Guys tournament for charity on August 13th at 2 p.m. CDT, which is 11 a.m. PST, because I had to look it up. So check out
What?
his.
No, it should be noon.
Is it nude? Oh, I already fucked it up. I even Googled
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Central Time is 2 hours difference, so it's 3 o'clock 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific.
Yeah, okay, sweet. Noon Pacific on August 13th. Please check out his Twitter at Corvus Twig for participation details. This episode of Did Y'all See That will be released on all major podcast platforms on Friday morning. My name is Ngozi Mai, and thank you all for watching. This has been Did Y'all See That, and I hope to see y'all next time. All right, y'all, bye.